Hello everyone, welcome to session number 25. Excited to have another special guest. This gentleman, and I've coached him, he has done the Sables 6-stage race in Morocco, Southern Morocco. It's held every March, and I'll just give you the stats on it. It's held every March. It's a 6-stage race in the Sahara Desert. It started in 1986. The longest single stage is 91K, or 57 miles long. And Don Devenney did it in March of just last year. So we're going to get Don in, and I'm going to get him to share his experiences with us and ask him a few questions. But before we do that, I want to give you guys, of course, my regular quote of the week. The quote of the week: lose your mind, follow your heart and intuition. So I'm going to call in Don right now. Don, can you join us?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time and thanks for sharing.
My pleasure. Happy to share.
Yeah, that's so nice of you to come in here. Right. So I guess we'll get right at it. And the first question I have, Don, what motivated you to do the Marathon des Sables?
Well, Mike, I always like an adventure.
Yes.
And I always like to challenge myself and to sort of take something up to the next level and look for extremes. And when I came across Marathon des Sables, when I was looking for something to do, I was intrigued. And over the course of a couple, 3 years, sort of found out how to enter and followed it up, and took the big step and put my name into the lottery, and lo and behold, I was selected to go.
Very good. Well, can you sort of tell us your experience? We don't have that much time, but could you tell us your experience?
Well, I think, Mike, the first place to start with my experience at Marathon des Sables really isn't at the race itself, because as anybody who's watching this knows, an event like that or any other extreme, or it's really about the whole process.
Yes.
And the process started when we started with our training. Yes. And did our the weekly hill sessions that went from 3 hills to 4 hills to, in the end, 10 hills with a 30-pound pack.
Yes.
And I'll never forget that day. That was truly an adventure. But that whole process, I think, was exceedingly important. Going through, trying to keep that in mind. As far as the race itself, the race takes place about a 6-hour bus ride outside of Ouarzazate, Morocco, in the South Sahara.
Yes.
The year that I did it, the race was 246.5 kilometers long, 6 stages over 7 days, and so a lot to get ready for. The unique thing about the Marathon des Sables is that they supply water, 9.5 liters of water a day. They have dock trotters there to do the medical, and they supply tents, and everything else is on your back. So you're carrying it with you. So had a couple of things that had to look after. So one was heat preparation, and as you know, I'm fortunate enough to work at Canadian Sport Institute. So we have a heat chamber there, and I was able to do a heat adaptation protocol, which involved 7 days of an hour and a half each day on a treadmill, doing a very specific set of exercises. And then the other part of that was have to prepare in terms of equipment and weight. Mandatory equipment is one thing, but the real goal is to try and minimize the amount of weight that you're carrying, because you're carrying all your food with you.
Yes.
I didn't appreciate at the time just how important weight was in terms of or keeping the weight to a minimum.
Yes.
I was I wanted to be comfortable. I wanted to have my a nice meal at the end of each day, and I did what every other beginner does, and I way overpacked. But anyway, that's another story. Arrived in Morocco, and all was good. It was a little cooler there this year. The locals were saying that spring was a couple of weeks late, so we had temperatures when we first got there in the high 30s, low 40s, and but it's so very dry that it doesn't feel so bad. Okay. And there was quite a cool wind blowing most days, so it was all right. They put you all together, put you on a bus or buses, and they bus you out to the desert, and you get into a bivouac area, and the bivouac area is just 2 horseshoe-shaped semicircles of tents It's a black cloth tent, open at two sides, and then they put a carpet on the ground, and that's what you sleep on.
Wow.
We had 6 people in our tent, but 8's the maximum. Mm-hmm. And a couple days at the bivouac site just to go through equipment checks and get yourself comfortable and that sort of thing.
Yes. And
then the Sunday morning comes, and 853 of us lined up at the start line. And some very unique things. They had, the oldest competitor was 80 years old. Mm-hmm. They had a blind competitor and his guide who, this was his 7th time doing it. They had a group of 10 firefighters from France who had a chair. It was a single wheel, a chair with a single wheel below it, and then a couple of handles, much like a wheelbarrow, with a canopy and so on. And then they had a couple of ropes coming out from it. And these guys they all got together, and they had, I think it was 4 teenagers that were disabled. Wow. And they took these guys, they would all each take a turn in the chair kind of thing, and would cycle it through somehow. And these guys did this whole course, pulling these kids along. It was absolutely awe-inspiring. Wow. Because there was a couple spots where, because of the terrain, the people said, the race organizers were prepared to give them another way around this, and they said, no, we're doing the race like everybody else does, and they did. Mm. Other than that, really, the race starts and everybody runs, even those like me. I walked, or a very fast walk, type of thing, for probably about 85% of it. Yeah. But you got to run the first couple K, and after that, you're out on the desert, and the terrain is very challenging. In some respects, there were some spots that was very much like here. There was some, big hills and sort of rocky passes kind of thing, and it felt like climbing up and down Mount Work. Oh. It was not dissimilar to that. There were a couple days where we ran into some large sand dunes, and yes. But for the most part, the ground was just hard packed earth that was just embedded with small sharp stones. Wow! And that's what makes it such a challenging environment. No doubt, the dryness is there as well. The fact that you're carrying all this weight with you, or you're carrying everything with you, that's all part of it. But it just wears away. Trail shoes, road shoes, doesn't matter. It wears away at your feet, and it just grinds away all these small sharp rocks, and blisters start to pop up and so on. Yes, I got the blisters on the second day, and yeah. So anyway, the first day was 33 kilometers. There was some of the vets called Mount Doom just at the end. It was a very large, steep climb, yes. all sand, and up this sort of road that was sand covered at the side. It was nasty. And again, because it's the desert and there's a lot of very flat spots, so you'll see the bivouac way in the distance and think, oh, I'm almost home. Yeah. And it'll take you an hour to get there, which is another mind game. And then you're in the bivouac site, and you're asleep by 8 o'clock because you're up with the sun at 5:30. Yes. Second day that's the day that I started into the blisters. I should have known something was up, because the second day, at the briefing prior to the start, the race director said that they were going to give us an extra hour to complete that stage. Yes. And they were going to give us an extra water at checkpoint, I think it was checkpoint 3 or checkpoint 2 or something, and that should have set off some alarm bells. Yes. Got out there, and by the time I got to checkpoint 2, which, 3 or 4 hours into it or whatever, it was seriously hot, and it was very windy. And from checkpoint 2 to checkpoint 3 was about 10K across a dried lake bed, and it was absolutely flatter than the bottom of an iron. Wow. About 30 knots of wind right at you. And it was really, really hot. And you could see the dust devils spinning and stuff in the distance. Wow. You couldn't really see a horizon because it was all kind of hazy with dust and whatever. I found out later that the temperatures had hit 50. And yeah, so it got to the end of that stage, and I had to take a break. And then I walked in from there. I met a friend, or another competitor, and we ended up doing most of the race together. Over some small, gentle dunes and so on, and that got us to day 2. Day 3 was a good day. Variety of terrain. They seem to find on this course, they seem to find ways to to mentally challenge you as well. So you see on the map that there's a checkpoint at such and such a spot, and there's a hill. Well, actually, it's two hills close together. So you go up one and realize that you have to go down and then across another and all the way up another one, which is what happened on that day. We had we had some good terrain for the first part of it, and then a couple of descents. Again, sort of like going up a small mountain work and coming down, and out across valleys and along a riverbed, and then up these two big sand hills, and that's where all that hill training came in, because I got up those hills, and yeah.
Is that what you would advise someone who's thinking about it, do a lot of hills training? Yeah,
hills is a big one, because yeah, that of all the things that I could have done, should have done, would have done, I did the hill training, and it came in. I was well prepared.
Wow!
I never had trouble as far as.
Well, I know the training you did for the 7 months. I mean, you followed the schedule to the T, and I know how we built up for those. So you had your training in.
Yeah, yeah.
How important is the mental?
Huge.
Toughness.
Huge. Because, if you've done marathons, if you've done Ironmans, you've experienced the highs and, or 50 milers and so on, you've experienced the highs and the lows, and you're getting that on a day-to-day basis as you're doing something like this, and it's compounding, right? You're getting, more and more, and you gradually, you're wearing yourself down for the first 2 or 3 days, and then your body starts to adjust, and you start to build back up a little. You get into the routine, but I think of one particular memory. It was on the long stage, which for us was 81.5 kilometers. They change the course every year, so it was 81.5 kilometers for us, and between checkpoint 4 and 5, I think it was, or 3 and 4, it was dark. And we launched out, so the first 3 or 4 or 5 kilometers, whatever, was sort of gentle rolling terrain, soft sand, and so on. And then we hit some sand dunes, and these were big sand dunes, probably 10 meters high. And you're climbing up. You see the glow stick that they laid out, and you sight on it, and you go down, and you walk across, and then you go up another sand dune, and this went on and on, and mental toughness, that's where the mental toughness comes in.
Because to me, it amazes me that you, for the first time, how you completed this, and it's from, you're mentally tough, what I know of you. You're mentally tough in that you played it out that way.
You have to, and and even then, I think if I didn't have somebody to talk to, and if she didn't have, who knows how it would have turned out. It's by far, I mean, the mental toughness is a huge component of that. And really what it comes down to is the same thing as if you're running a marathon or a half marathon. You just break it down in stages, and you say, you know what, all I have to do is go climb that dune, and I'll get to the top and see where I'm going from there, and I'm going to go climb another dune.
Yes.
And that's how you do it.
In chunks.
Yep. You break it down in pieces. It's like it's like eating the elephant. You do it one bite at a time.
Beautiful. Now, can I ask you now, what advice would you give someone who is thinking about doing the Saab?
Marathon Saab? A couple of things that just from my experience, and in no particular order of importance, I'm just going to go. Hill training is important. Get out there, and hill training and training with a pack on. Get used to having the pack and weight in that pack on your back. I did some of that. Next time I do Marathon des Sables, I will have that pack on early, and I will weigh it, have it weighted down, and I'll be training with it, because that's a big part of it. So the hill training, training on loose gravel, sand, and that kind of thing is also important because it's the rubbing. Get your feet rub around inside those shoes, and you want to be used to that.
Yes. Okay.
And the other thing is, I would be absolutely fanatical about weight. The weight of your pack. You put on a 23-pound pack. It doesn't feel that bad. Well, wear it for 8 hours in a day, or wear it when you're running, and for a couple hours at a time, and you'll start to see that it's going to wear on you. So the top guys are doing this with 16 and 17-pound packs. I don't know that I could get it down that much, but if and when I do it again, I'm aiming for sub 20 pounds as far as the weight of the pack goes, because that's important.
Yes.
That would be So
that's very good. Now, any final thoughts for the runners out there, or anything? Any final thoughts?
It's a spectacular adventure.
Yes.
My goal, the first time I did it, my goal was to finish, and if I didn't run, if I had to walk every step, then I was prepared to do that because I just wanted to finish. I wanted the whole experience, and it's a fantastic adventure. You'll see country that you can't possibly imagine. You'll meet the most wonderful people, athletes and locals, and yeah, just a superior way to spend some time.
Thanks so much for
You bet, Mike.
sharing, man.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir. Thanks a lot.